Yeah, who cares? It'll run on anything.
Alrighty, so if you remember before, there were a bunch of exposed bits of rust all across this floor where the paint, nice beautiful blue paint, had faded away. What I did is I got a can of brown rust preventing primer and I just cleaned it up and threw down a coat of that. So it's all, I've just done the front so far. I'm going to get to the back. I just did this to try and stop like up here where there's some serious rust and a hole straight through the floor. I'm just trying to prevent that from getting any worse. This is rust preventing primer. It's supposed to prevent it from progressing any worse than it is. Alrighty, so I finished painting up the back. There's obviously less paint here. And I got most of it. I left some bank where there's just no rust. This side was worse, so there's a lot more paint. I also tried out this blue paint I had lying around the house to see if it's the right color. It's a good color, but I don't think it's quite right for this car. I wanted to take a moment, catch everyone up on what this car is that you're seeing around a lot. We've taken to calling it the President. It's a 1977 Lincoln Continental that somebody crashed off the road a couple years beforehand, about 4 years, and I bought because I wanted its drivetrain for my Lincoln Premier, and this car is perfect. Basically everything ended up bolting right up so far, but before we started stripping it for all of its parts, we decided to have some fun with it. That's why you see it with the roof off and the American flag painted on it. It's a fun car to have, but wasn't meant to last. It was just for parts. If you're upset that we tore it apart or cut it all up, to ease your mind, it was destined for demolition derby anyway. The guys we bought it from had a bunch of cars for demo derby. They all needed to get sold so they could get rid of some space on their property. Really, I'm giving this car a better home because its heart is still going to be alive and it's going to be beating in the beautiful body of my 1957. So that's what this car is. If you're wondering, you'll see bits and pieces of it on the channel, but it no longer exists as a car. I sold it back to a scrapyard. We'll have to pull this off and see if we can swap one of the Lincoln tires on. It's just a little messed up. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine. Rev it up. Gear. It's so choppy. God.
Fuck yeah, bud.
Oh yeah.
She's a cruiser. She's a cruiser.
What are you saying? We get pulled over.
Awesome. I'm just taking it for a test drive. I won't buy this beast.
Fucking hell. So we decided to take it through the Wendy's drive-through, and now it's overheating.
Yeah, we figured drive-through test, and it doesn't have a fan shroud. It's not really cooling, and the radiator's empty, and it's pissing coolant and burning oil, but it's okay.
It's fine.
Doing good.
It's fine.
It's fine. What we're looking at is everything, but what I was looking at in the engine bay is these mounts for upper A-arm and for lower A-arm look very similar. The manual steering looks almost identical. I'm down here underneath the Premier pulling the rear axle out so I can put on El Presidente's rear axles. And I pulled the diff cover off. This is exactly how it came out. Dry as a bone. There's a stick in there. Look at that. Fucking So somebody's been in this axle before. I haven't looked entirely yet, but it looks like everything is there. Except, oh, missing one spider gear. Fuck. And that's pretty fucked too. Well, they're rebuilding an axle. I didn't record this, but I pulled the rear axle out of the President, swapped it with the Premiers, and then stripped the car to the bones, pulled the engine about, and had everything carried off to a scrapyard. I meant to film me doing this, but it just kind of came right off. I took the front bumper off, and I'm about to take the radiator support off, and then that gives me basically a clear shot to slide the engine in horizontally. And I'm gonna do the first of many test fits with the engine, figure out where I want to mount it, where I need to clearance the radiator, and then go from there. So I'm gonna take this off now that I've destroyed my dream car and opened up a nice hole straight into the middle. I'm gonna go grab the engine hoist, slide the engine in here, see if it'll fit.
This is where I'm calling it for today. Engine's not technically in. You can see the oil pan's really hanging out there. I'm getting hung up on the old engine mounts here and on the other side. The transmission's hitting those, so I'm gonna have to come back here later or tomorrow and cut those off, I think, and then try and go back further in. Alright, well, this is the best it's gonna get for this year. I leave next week, so I can't work on the car until next summer, because I'll be back for winter, but that's just too cold out here in a tent. Miraculously, the transmission bell housing just barely fits with the old car's bell housing, but I think I might have to cut it out anyway because I can't get it level enough. Additionally, the motor mounts down here are way too high for this engine, so I knew I was gonna have to cut those off. And I think if I cut those off, I can get the engine to go further back in the engine bay, and that will level it out, get it slightly further back. As it stands now, I'm pretty sure I have enough space to get a radiator and a shroud in there for the fan. Besides for all the work that's going to have to happen to make this a functional car, won't actually be too bad, but it's going to be a lot. There's a lot to do. I'm feeling confident, and I said at the beginning of the summer it was my goal to get the engine in. Technically it is in the car. This is also a big deal because now it won't get rained on. It's not exposed to the elements anymore. So yeah, I think it's looking pretty good. Yeah, we'll see you next summer. See what we can do then.